I go.
Okay. Yeah, Brian, thank you. We were just gonna come do that. Put that one there.
Mine is, you sat in the truck for a little while, so that's not as warm either. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome everybody to the candidate forum for Wapello County Supervisor that is being sponsored by the League of Women Voters. So thank you to our candidates for being willing to answer questions from the public. And also thank you very much to the City of Ottumwa for allowing us to use these chambers and also to broadcast the forum on GoTV as well as make it available on YouTube. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jean, who is going to cover the rules of the forum.
We're going to try to shed light, not excitement. Everyone probably knows the rules of the forum. Pardon me, this is a forum, not a debate. All of you in the audience get to ask questions. The candidates cannot question each other. Those of you who want to ask questions of the candidates are asked to write it on a 3x5 card, and you should have all been given one when you came in. If you didn't, just raise your hand and we'll make sure that you get both a card and a pen. You'll bring the cards up here. Oh, okay. We have league members who will collect the cards and bring them up. Carolyn will read them to the candidates. Candidates are asked questions in rotation so that no candidate is always the first, nor are they always the last. And each candidate will have an equal opportunity to answer every question. And they can also say, I'd rather not respond to that. The candidates, you will notice, are seated in alphabetical order. League works very hard at we are a nonpartisan organization, and we try to make sure that all of the candidates are treated equally. League will ask the very first question, and all of the subsequent questions will come from all of you. I'm hoping that everyone is aware of the fact that we are on now GOTV Live, and we will be on YouTube Live now, and anytime in the relatively soon future, if you want to watch the YouTube portion, you can just go to the website for the City of Ottumwa, and the website YouTube will be there. I understand you're going to do something magical, and it'll be on Facebook before sunrise or something. These candidates are going to be able to reach a lot of voters. Each of the candidates this evening will make a 2-minute opening statement about themselves and their reason for seeking office. Each candidate, as the forum goes on, will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and then each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. And we provide a timekeeper to make sure that everybody has equal time. I think, Carolyn, we may begin.
All right, we're going to start with a league question, and I was told that the courier, the Ottumwa. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we have heard from Mr. Batterson that he is not here because he is on a vacation. Mr. Rosenbaum was going to be here. I'm not sure why he is not. But we do have 4 candidates that are willing to share their time with us. Ms. Hammersley Wilson, we'll start with your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum and to the residents of Wapello County for participating in this opportunity to learn more about the candidates seeking to serve our county. As an involved member of my community, I feel the opportunity to serve as a supervisor will offer a venue to share a fresh, positive, and proactive voice to the governing of our county. Experience has value, but experience needs to support inclusiveness, growth, especially through change. Otherwise, experience lends itself to discard fresh or innovative ideas and can become a self-serving body that is unable to encourage and support or mentor emerging leaders. We as a county need to develop and inspire leaders from all areas. The supervisor's job is multi-layered and should focus on the needs and the development of the resident farmers, landowners, businesses, conservation, tourism, and quality of life. I look forward to listening to the community members' concerns, questions, and ideas that may move our county into the next phase of development and growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hewitt?
Thank you, the League of Ladies and the public for showing up. I've been a supervisor for 4 years now, and we've worked on a lot of things, and there's a lot of things to be worked on. But you just don't do it overnight. It takes time. And I think we're doing a good job as it is right now. That's about all I've got to say about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parker?
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to serve in office, a variety of offices over the past several years. I've been able to attain experience in city and county government that no one else could attain, and probably because of the form of governments never will be able to attain. I've been very fortunate you allowed me to do that. I served 4 terms on the Ottumwa City Council, and I served those in a full-time capacity. I was in charge of parks and public property. I served 3 terms as a full-time mayor, and I worked in the engineering department of the city of Ottumwa for 6 years. I think our best accolades come from people outside the county, people that just know us because of our working relationship. I serve as an officer on the 8th Judicial District Board. That's 14 counties. I serve as chair of the Southeast Iowa Response Group. That's 9 counties. I serve as vice chair of the governance board, which is 4 counties, and it takes care of all the mental health in the 4-county area. I'm an officer in the Southern Iowa Crime Commission, and I'm chairman of the Wapello County Emergency Management Commission. On top of all that, the Iowa State Association of Counties, we're in the 5th district. Wapello County is part of the 5th district, and we are made up of 17 counties, not just supervisors, auditors, treasurers, recorders, sheriffs, county attorneys, and I'm serving currently my 3rd term as the president of that 17 county organization. I thank you again for the opportunity to serve you, and if you choose, I will report to work every day as I have the last 24 years, and I will continue to be your supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
Hello, and thank you for being here this evening. And I want to thank Jerry and Wayne for serving in this capacity in the past. I do appreciate your efforts, that is for sure. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I retired from the Small Business Development Center director at Indian Hills. I served that role for 35 years. That actually served a 10-county area. And so I helped small businesses get started, helped them expand. Prior to that, I was a water well drilling contractor. So I bid water well jobs for city and county governments. So I've experienced that side of the business. I graduated from Western Illinois University with a master's degree in business and have taught business classes throughout the years, including topics like QuickBooks. One of the roles that the county supervisor has to engage in is managing the budget. I'm very experienced on that. I would be able to participate in activities that bring in extra money to the community, such as grants. And sometimes leadership just needs to happen to make things happen that don't result in taxpayer money. And an example of that is I'm a Green Township trustee. Green Township in the southwest part of Wapello County is now getting fiber optic, not because we put money into it, but we requested a contractor to come in and implement a system of fiber optics. That's really neat when something happens without taxpayer money going into it. I really want to make our county better. I have a grandson and a granddaughter that's going to school here, Caleb and Leah. I want them to stay in the area and have good paying jobs when they get out of the school system. Thank you for this evening.
Okay. Now,
Right, so our first question, this is the league question, and I was told that the Ottumwa Courier asked a similar question, but for our YouTube viewing audience, we're going to ask the question again. So how would you plan, so the question is, how would you plan to work with the city of Ottumwa to increase housing stock and incentivize new businesses in the county?
and we'll start with Mr. Hewitt.
Well, you know, I've only been this 4 years, but the county and the city has been odds for many years. And we're working on that to get it straightened to where we're closer together. And it's a two-way street. You just don't do it overnight. But we're working on it. I mean, it's getting better.
Okay, Mr. Parker?
Well, I'm afraid too many times all you hear about is the times that we disagree or we have a difference of opinion. I'd like to see you take any 5 of you city councilmen, 3 of us supervisors, throw us in a room and say, make decisions without having any differences of opinion. We will have differences of opinion, but you don't hear about the things that we cooperate on. You know, the city is trying to build an archery range for the public. You know who paid for the electricity to run in and built the new boat dock for the city? The county did. Job Corps, when we were trying to get Job Corps here and they have 100 new employees, spend $8 or $9 million in the community, they said, no, we need $100,000 spent on the road back behind and the road in front. The city didn't have the money to pay for the road in front. You know what they did? In a cooperative, they designed it, they inspected, they provided the engineering, and the county paid for it. You don't hear those kind of things that are cooperative, but there are. The emergency management operation. We're cooperating with the city right now to purchase the old 1015 or the old transit building that they had down there and use for emergency management for all of us. Have you heard about that cooperative effort and how we can expand emergency management for Wapello County? When you say we haven't been getting along, there's issues. Even I would bet that some of you even disagreed with your spouse once in a while. It's going to happen here, but the way we work out those decisions, that is how the cooperation comes about.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
Yes, thank you. I really believe that the county and the city serve the same people. And so we do have the same goals and we can reach or make plans that result in the benefit for both. Speaking specifically to housing and business startups, the need for housing is very evident. There are programs that are helping on that. I am the board member of the Regional Planning Commission, and I'm the treasurer. And they have a program that does that, but it needs to be grown and enhanced so that we're replacing housing at a better rate in the Ottumwa area. And what that does is it creates tax revenue when you build houses that improve the housing. From a business startup standpoint, that's my area. I love business startup, entrepreneurship. We have talent in the area. We need to create better opportunities. There are programs out there, but there are ways that we can improve that. One of them would be to create a local angel investment fund that would invest in businesses.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley Wilson?
Yes. So my ideas would be the Legacy Foundation, City of Ottumwa, in partnership, the county had a little bit of part in that, did a housing study. There's a lot of great information in there, and I've been perusing it and checking it out. We've got some new housing lots going up in Ottumwa, I think maybe 5 or 6 if I'm correct. We have opportunities in the county. I am the chair for the Wapello County Planning and Zoning Board. So there's lots of opportunities for us to look and see what lands are available in the county for development. I also, I've already been speaking to the mayor, so regardless whether I'm elected or not, this has been a passion of mine, having the Ottumwa Small Business Alliance, working to recruit small businesses and encourage entrepreneurs to start their businesses in Ottumwa. Job Corps is a perfect example of that. We have a lot of students that graduate out of Job Corps that are highly skilled. They also would like to stay in Ottumwa. They can't because the jobs aren't there, or the support for an entrepreneurial opportunity, they just can't find it. So it would be great for us to work to continue to find places for more housing development, and to work with the city and going out recruiting businesses to come to Ottumwa, show them what a great place it is to get their business going, and encourage entrepreneurs to start their businesses here by giving them opportunities of what's available, what buildings are available, what services are available. So thank you very much.
Okay, the next question is from Sheriff Don Phillips. So the sheriff writes, deputies in every surrounding county are paid more wages than the Wapello County deputies. Correctional officers in Wapello County are one of the lowest paid in comparison to the surrounding counties. Surrounding counties' sheriff's office employees are making $3 to $8 more an hour. So surrounding counties making $3 to $8 more. Our deputies handled 8,000 more calls for service, and correctional officers booked more than 2,600 inmate bookings, more than all neighboring counties combined, and averaged 90 inmates in jail a day. So the question is, if elected, what is your plan to address the wage discrepancy so that the sheriff can retain staff and attract qualified applicants?
Mr. Parker.
I think that was probably more of a political speech than it was a question, but I'd be glad to answer it. We had a 3-year contract, and we accepted the wage proposal presented by the sheriff's department. I brought it. They wanted 3%, 3%, and 3%, and they wanted a 3-year contract. We wanted 2%, and we wanted to give a 1-year contract. We gave in and gave them 3% each year. In the middle year of that, you know what we did? Signed, sealed, and delivered. The contract is done, no negotiations for another year. You know what happens? The supervisors said, no, we're having a better financial year than we thought. Let's take all employees, because all of our employees, not just the sheriff's department, all of our employees, especially the ladies at the courthouse, are underpaid. Let's take and give them an extra 2% on top of the 3%. That's what the supervisors did. And we're looking for every opportunity to do that. We have taken away Clerk 1 positions. We're not hiring people at Clerk 1 anymore. We said, anybody new coming, we're going to start you at Clerk 2. We're receptive to anything like that, but when we already have an agreement, I think you'll find we're probably the only one in the state that backed up and said, wait a minute, we're having a good year, let's give them more. And we raised that by, that's 60%, from 3% up to 5%. We increased it.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler.
Yes. Law enforcement is the fundamental of our society. We can't exist without it. And when it comes to the employees that are doing that, just think of the risk that they take in those situations. It's just not right if we're not paying them equal to or close to the average of the state or the surrounding counties. And then, I'm such an advocate of paying employees too much. That sounds almost ridiculous, but I think people are worth more than they're getting paid today. And so if we have to give them an 8% increase, a 15% increase, that's okay. We'll have to figure out how to fund that, but there are ways to do that. And there's always grant opportunities out there. We have to work together, and that's what I would do. I would sit down with the the departments and say, what do you need? How can we work together to make this happen? And I know things will happen very positively if we approach it that way.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley Wilson.
So I very much agree with several things that Brian had said. Other counties that are smaller than us and have less money than us are paying their law enforcement more than ours are being paid. And the respect, it can be worked on here. I have some friends that are in law enforcement, both the city and the county. And it's kind of disturbing to see the morale going down the way it is. And it doesn't have to. We can talk to other counties and see what they're doing, how they are making their wages more in line with what it should be for that profession. But we have got to respect, we can't be fighting with them. We need to let them know, I'm here, I'm listening to you. Give us some ideas. Let's talk to some other counties and see how they're making their books match. And then we can hopefully take some of those great ideas, best practices, and put them in to service here in Wapello County.
Mr. Hewitt?
That was one of my pet peeves. I am on public safety. I agree there's nothing better than having public safety. And I've worked with the sheriff's department and Donnie and all them trying to do this, get their wages up. But it's hard to do. I mean, we did give another 3%, which brought them up to 5%, which is not bad. And I gave the other people a 10% because they've been working at poverty wages for so long. And we're working on this, getting this department up and more money. But some of these other counties have higher taxes than we do. You've got to look at that. We've kept taxes down. Not because we don't want safety, but it's gonna come around. We'll get it fixed up.
Thank you. Next question, please.
This question comes from Lisa Smith. She asks, how do you propose handling the shortfall in mental health funding?
Okay, Mr. Ziegler, we'll start with you.
And that is an area that I would have to dig into and investigate to see what the requirements are and what the issues are. It's obvious that mental health is an issue that we need to address, because if we can address it correctly, we prevent problems that law enforcement is going to experience. And so that's an area that I really feel that it's important. My daughter-in-law teaches at Evans Middle School, and she's experiencing the challenges of mental health every day in that situation. And so, part of that is negotiation or discussion with the school district and the school system to make sure that we're working together to accomplish the good for all of us in our area.
Ms. Hammersley Wilson?
Yes. So there's been a few studies, and our public health has put out some information on funding and so forth. I have great concerns, as many of us do, when the state decided to take over our mental health funding. I have to give credit to our Board of Supervisors for the several years that they managed the mental health funding and did a great job. And then the state came in and said, oh, well, we're going to do this. You don't need to do this anymore. I'm very concerned about them not being paid on time and falling through the cracks. A lot of the people we have after COVID, we have a lot of mental health issues for a lot of people that need to be addressed. So we need to work with our public health department. We need to work with the state and our legislators. And we have great mental health facilities here in our county. Work with them, see what their needs are, and how we can help improve not only the services, but find the funding that's needed.
Thank you. Mr. Hewitt?
As of right now, we don't have any funding problems with mental health. Down the road now, maybe 5 years, there's going to be a problem with it. The state's wanting to take over a lot of it, but it will probably end up getting it back after 5 years. But right now, I think it's in good shape.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Well, I'm kind of disappointed when I hear Mr. Ziegler say that, You know, he didn't know that much about it. We're going to be supervisor. You jump into the seat, you better know those things. We've had mental health board meetings you could have attended to learn about what the problems are. And I was more disappointed to hear Connie say the state took over mental health. No, they did not. All they took over was providing some funding for us. They did not take over mental health. They left all the problems with us. And we aren't going to have a problem for, kind of like Wayne said, for 2 years. The state is making us take our balance and use it over the next 2 years. We have to use it up. It's got to be 5%. That's all we're going to be allowed to have. So the state's given us this much money. We're putting this much in. In 2 years, we will have no balances to cover that shortfall. What's left? What's left is non-core services like our jail program, where we have mental health kind of in the jail, taking care of clients there. Going to have to quit that. If the state doesn't make some change in increasing funding, they left us with all the problems. So if you think the state took over mental health, you're going to have a rude awakening if you happen to win this seat. That's not the case.
And I apologize, that was a wording issue on my part, so.
I think you only get to speak when the question's to you. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Next question, please.
Okay, this question is from Ed Wilson. He writes, would you support a tax rebate if the county would be able to attract a large business? And he has a second part to this question that says, what if they're requesting $1 million rebate, but the county would collect $10 million over the next 20 years? Would you support this?
Okay, and we start with Ms. Hammersley Wilson.
So I have the TIF portion of this. I've got mixed emotions depending on each specific business that comes in, I guess is the best way to put it. So I think it's a fine line. Is down the road, is this business going to bring enough resources and money into the community to offset rebates? I think we have to look at the dollar amounts. We have to look at down the road what that looks like. And, you know, when you get into those kind of dollars, boy, that's a fine line that you've got to walk, and you've got to make sure that you can back this up and they can back up their part. I wouldn't be against sitting down and having a conversation. But again, you've got to look at trajectory, and you've got to have the best people at the table and get their input, and then make an informed decision based on the the best input you can get from the best people.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt.
Rebates are fine, but you got to look at, like she was saying, the longevity of this individual is going to be here or not. You know, they could be here 1 year, 2 years, and be gone. You're out a whole lot of money. So, you know, it's kind of a dicey deal.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
If it's for industry and job development, yes, we already have in plan a tax rebate. The first year you pay, you get like a 75% reduction. The second year you get a 60% on down to in 6 years. So yeah, for industry or job development, absolutely. For retail, no. If you bring in a woman's clothing store here and say you don't have to pay taxes for the next 20 years, you've hurt the competition that are right here in town that have been paying taxes and hiring people for years, and now you're going to give the new people the tax break. I oppose the housing 20-year free taxes on the housing development out north, and I said they will build it. Why do you give them more than you give the local people here? If you make an improvement on your home, you can get 3 to maybe 5 years. Why do we want to give someone who's going to take the money out of town a 20-year? Well, the council ended up giving them like a 10-year rebate. That is wrong. There's competition here. There's other apartments. We should do it for industry, and we have that on the books. You can get the development tax. It's the same one that's in the state code, and we'll do it. But more than that, we're providing opportunities for development, like the county gave $50,000 for the entrepreneurial program. Why? It helps create businesses here. We need employees. The simulation study out at Indian Hills where the nursing program is, we contributed, we funded a lot of that. Why? So we can have more employees for the industries that come here.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler.
Yes. Tax abatement and its counterpart, the tax increment financing, are development tools that can be used to attract businesses. However, they only should be used when it makes the difference in them coming or not. A lot of times they are used when in fact the business is going to come anyway. That is a tough decision to make from the application that a business submits. So you can't just determine this as a general statement, you're for it or against it. You have to look at an application and determine if it is going to make the difference. And then in the end, it becomes a good investment for the county.
Thank you. Next question.
Jay Allison writes, what is your position regarding franchise fees proposed by the city of Ottumwa?
Mr. Hewitt, I believe you start first this time.
I don't agree with it. That's all I've got to say.
I didn't hear.
I don't agree with it.
Okay. Mr. Parker?
Well, in case you don't know what it is, I want to explain to you what the city's trying to do right now. Right now on your utility bill, on your electric bill and your gas bill, you're paying 1%. That's all they can pay as a sales tax on your utility bill, 1%. If they call it a franchise fee, you know what they can do? 5%. Now, from February of 21 to February of 22, your utility costs went up 26%. From February of 21 to March of 22, they went up 32%. That's what energy costs went up. Now, why do we want to encourage business to come here and say we're going to raise that another 5% to make it 37%? Those of you that attended the Alliant hearings in the past, I appeared with the plant manager of John Deere. And he said at that time, if we took John Deere and we set it in Oskaloosa, we'll save $650,000 a year in utility costs alone. Are we going to add 5% more to that? Because the next industry might not be one that's sitting here and can't move. It might be one that's looking about coming here and say, wait a minute, Oskaloosa doesn't have 5%. Let's go there. I absolutely am opposed to it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ziegler.
I believe that was a city issue, not a county issue. So I'm not sure that it's an issue that we need to address. But on the other hand, it's asked. And so my opinion would be, well, it's relative to other taxes. If that's one way to collect taxes that causes some other taxes to be reduced, perhaps it's not a bad thing to consider. But that all has to be studied and weighed out before you would actually make a statement that it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Thank you, Mrs. Hammersley Wilson.
Yes, so franchise fees can be very beneficial to the community in which they're assessed. They also, as we have stated, can raise some prices that can hurt some people. I think it's a step-by-step. I think the utilities that's going on around the state, I know that right now Des Moines is going through this conversation with Mid-American and the franchise fees there. And I'm listening very closely to what they're having to say there and the conversations that they're having both for and against the franchise fees. I think it's something we need to look at, but I cannot say defiantly that, yes, I'm for them or against them. I think we really need to see how it impacts and affects the bottom line of the people in our community. And so I will be watching the Des Moines debate very closely.
Our next question is from Connie Black. She asked, is the money being given for the sports complex the federal money that was supposed to go for the roads and bridges?
And we start with Mr. Parker.
Well, first, it wasn't supposed to go to roads and bridges. The federal government, in giving that ARP money out to schools, counties, and cities, left it wide open as to where it could go. So the thing that they encourage is anything that encourages health, trails, parks, sports complex. So we're only giving a portion of it to that, and we're using the rest for a variety of other things. But it was not designated for roads and for bridges. In fact, I think in the beginning even, it was prohibited from spending it on county roads and county bridges.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
I'm an advocate of the sports complex, but I'm also an advocate of a concept of leadership that helps fund it without putting tax dollars into it that could be used for other county services. Now, in the end, that might not be possible. I'm still in favor of a sports complex. But one of the issues that comes out of that is, and I farm on the side or full-time now that I'm retired, and our roads are muddy part of the year. Our roads don't get snow plowed for a day. We need attention given to our roads, and that whole area needs to be managed so that we're pulling in the right contractors at the right time, and we're using bonding if we need to use bonding. I grew up in a rural area that had blacktop roads. I could come to Ottumwa, and it's not here. It hasn't been here. We can do better on our roads.
Thank you. Ms. Connor?
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
funding,
Henderson Wilson.
the funding for the sports complex is something that the supervisors will address. That's not something that candidates will. So thank you for your clarification, Mr. Parker. The sports complex, though, as a whole, I am completely for. It's a quality of life issue that will bring millions of dollars over the years to our community and bring our community together. So I'm very excited about the sports complex and looking to help them find the dollars that they need, either through grants and other venues and private monies, which they're working very hard and doing a really great job in building the endowment that they need to get that to move forward.
Mr. Hewitt?
This ARP money is not our tax money. It's the government's giving it to us. I mean, in turn, we probably do pay it later on. But when we first got it, it could not be used for anything except health. And basically that was it, your health of it. Like the windows in the courthouse, we had to replace them. It lets air in and air out. And that's what the whole issue was. And the sports complex, I think, is going to be a really, really beneficial part to the city of Ottumwa and the county. So
Thank you.
Okay, so before I ask this next question, I also want to let the audience know we don't have that many more questions. So if you've been thinking about asking a question, please feel free. We have some folks up here who will collect questions from you. So our next question is from Chad Black. He asked, if an individual had livestock in the county and they breached the owner's property, how many times would you consider it to be a nuisance or maybe a safety concern? And what time frame would you feel is representative?
Mr. Ziegler, you start, please.
That question is addressed in two different areas. It's addressed by the township trustees as needed when the fence is the issue. And it's also addressed by the Iowa Code as far as the code sets up the criteria for that. And so I will leave it at that. Those are things that need to be taken care of by the appropriate people.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley
Yes,
Wilson?
so exactly. I do have the trustees' information here, and as Brian eloquently put, that is an issue for them to follow up on. And that's why they are elected to be trustees of their townships, is to monitor those types of issues. Let's be good neighbors. Let's take care of our fence, keep our livestock where they should be, and keep them safe. I have livestock myself. I want to make sure my fences are in good repair and that my animals are well taken care of and safe. So maybe they have some issues. Maybe we can work together on having a fence building day. I've been known to do that a few times. So let's work together. Let's help one another and try to be good neighbors.
Mr. Hewitt?
well, first of all, who gets to call first? is the sheriff's department. And they have to go out and look it over, and sometimes they have to round them up, put them back in. But this fence thing is getting to be a pretty serious thing. People don't want to fix their fence. And you can't, the trustees can say all they want to. If you bring somebody in to fix it, then it's added to their taxes. So it's a bad deal all the way around, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Well, let's get the real crux of this question. The real crux is not spouting out about what the code says. We all know that. The problem is who's doing it. And it was Mr. Ziegler. That's why the question came up here. It was his cattle that was causing the problem. And you can talk to the sheriff about the problems he's had with it. He did a good job of talking around the question and not giving the answer. It's pretty simple. Keep your cattle off the road. That's all you got to do. It's real simple.
So our next question is from Connie Black. Is it a conflict of interest if a person serves on 2 boards and one board is the controlling board for the other board?
Ms. Hammersley Wilson? Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's kind of like in the school system, we had, if you're the principal, you shouldn't have your spouse be a teacher in your building and be over them. And most corporations have those same kind of rules. So I'm not really following exactly which boards we're talking about. So I'm kind of in the dark on this, but I think we need to be, and boards, you're invited to be on boards. So I think the board of directors, the voting parties should have been more aware of what boards people are sitting on before they brought them to serve. So like I said, I'm not really sure what's the whole crux is. Sounds like a real issue, but yeah, it's to me not good practice for either board.
Mr. Hewitt?
We don't have any conflict of boards like that. I mean, ours are all open boards and nothing to do with one another. They're different altogether.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Well, it's difficult when you don't know what board you're talking about, because if you want to be a city councilman and a supervisor, you cannot. If you want to be a city councilman and you want to be on the school board, I believe you can. So the state code tells you which ones you can and which ones you can't. Now, we have employee rules that prohibit directors, heads of departments having their employees be relatives, but that's not boards and commissions. The state code's pretty explicit on where you can and where you can't.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
Yes, that is, I agree with something Jerry said there, that a lot of that is set up by the code or the codes of the different forms of government. So it's established that way. Generally, though, if you look at conflict of interest, it's a concept of where you benefit personally by something that board is doing, not so much sitting on different boards that contribute to each other. So it's more of an idea of, am I doing something on that board that benefits me personally?
Well, I am out of audience questions. We did have a couple people approach the league and suggest some questions to us previously, prior to tonight. So I have 2. So I'll just ask those. And then if anybody has a burning question, these ladies up front can take your questions. So one is, one person had approached us previously and asked about the main areas. What are the main areas of Wapello County where developers prefer to build and why?
And we start with Mr. Hewitt.
Well, yeah, I guess I can't really answer that question because I don't know of any developers that have been in as specified any place they want to build. As far as I know.
Okay, Mr. Parker?
The best, did you have,
was going to say, I think the question had to do with there's more building in the county than it appears there is in the city. Do you know of any reason for that?
Taxes.
I guess maybe that would help, Mr. Hewitt.
Well, Jerry just mentioned it would be taxes for one thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Now, Mr. Parker, do you have more?
If you're
thoughts?
talking about residential development, there are better opportunities because, you know, we have utilities out in the county that would support residential. And if you want to build a home, you can put in a septic tank. You've already got power going by there and the gas company's probably close by. You'll get rural water. So on residential development, anyone I've talked to, they choose out in the county because you're only paying about 60% of the property taxes you would pay if you were in town. And our statistics each year, I ask for a record of where we build. And historically, we build more homes out in the county than we do in town. As far as big development, let's say like, I don't know, a JBS or something, they're going to have to be where there's monumental utilities, and those are not out in the county.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
And part of the reason for demand for living in the country is just because people enjoy that atmosphere and the recreational value of that. And that's good. And I think it can be encouraged and enhanced. I would like to really sit down with developers or discover or find developers and help the developers develop. And I like those developers to be locally owned and operated rather than from somebody outside of our area. And then, you know, there's a concept of creating kind of some themed communities. A themed community is like a group of housing that's around a lake or around a golf course, or there's so much interest in horses in our area. Connie knows this. And so, you know, a development area that features horses and horse trails would be an excellent concept. So we can do more that's focused on specific recreational needs.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley Wilson?
Yeah, so when I was with the chamber and, you know, as I'm developing the Small Business Alliance and talking with people who'd like to start businesses here, of course, it's access to our roads, highways, and so forth for truck transport and so forth, having the infrastructure, the sewer systems, the electrical, you know, and other utilities available. Broadband, you know, is a huge one when you're trying to run a business and so forth. So you've got to be thinking, you know, where can I, and I know Sharon worked on the Helgerson Flats and so forth and developed, you know, that property out north and so forth. I don't know at this point, you know, if the developer has moved forward on the Helgerson Flats, but we have some great areas in the county, you know, in which somebody could, you know, either build a housing community or, you know, a business in which, you know, they can have access to the resources that they need to build their business.
Okay.
Okay, last question. So what would be the best process for county employees to share concerns or ideas? With the county supervisors.
Okay, Mr. Parker?
Well, the best way is we're in the office. One of us is there almost all the time. I'm there every day except when I go on my 8-day vacation in July. I make sure that my cell phone number is in the Courier. They publish it. We have it on the phones when you call the office. You can get our cell phone number there. I've never refused a call. And I also make sure that I go to almost every function in the county, whether it's a soup supper, it's an ice cream social, or whatever it is, I'm there. And you'd be surprised how many times people come up to me and say, you know, since I saw you here, I have a question. Well, there's an opportunity. I think we have to get out in the public more, and we have to go to every meeting that we can. We all serve on about a dozen boards and commissions that are important. So when we go into those areas, people come to those meetings and talk to us. So we have an opportunity. We've tried holding meetings in the evening. We hold them in the daytime. We've got a meeting coming up on a cattle lot. It's going to be in the evening. We try and encourage people to come. So we're available. You give the supervisors a call, and I'll guarantee you, any of the three of us, you're going to get to talk to.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
Yes, employees always should channel their concerns through their managers, and then the managers should take it to the supervisors. But even if that process is in place, there might be a need for an occasional time when an employee needs to talk directly, and I would encourage that. I would encourage it by going to the offices and the employees, showing up at their place, at their work sites, and visiting with them about what's going on and what's happening. And that, just a little bit ago, Mark Rowe came to the Board of Supervisors to discuss what he needs. I would do that differently. I would go to Mark Rowe and go to his people and discuss with them what they need and work on the plan of action together to grow our economy.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley Wilson?
Yes, I think sharing ideas and who to go to, it's, of course, you follow the succession plan of, your immediate supervisor and then move on from there. I think one of the other underlying things is when you do have concerns, feel like you can openly have a conversation and not be retaliated against or it held against you, or somewhere down the line, there's some kind of retribution for you speaking your mind and sharing your ideas or your concerns. So I really think we need to develop leaders, and the way you develop leaders is by making them feel secure in being able to share their concerns, their ideas, and we just need to do a better job, as a whole on listening to what people have to say. Don't take it personally, but find it as a way to build better communication and better government for our county.
Mr. Hewitt?
Well, right now, every Tuesday morning, we meet with the engineer, superintendent, and working foreman, and we go over what's going on for the week. And it's been working out real well. And myself, I'm in almost all the elected officials' office once, maybe twice a day sometimes. And we work together that way. So I don't know what else you could do when you're right there with them.
Thank you. Okay, but it's the time for their closing statements. Okay, we'll start with the closing statements, and Mr. Ziegler, you are the person that gets to lead off.
Okay, thank you. One thing I didn't mention earlier was that I've been involved with the Wapello County Fire Department for 34 years now as a form of public service. That has been an exciting experience. I know the county from the standpoint of, I know where people's had grass fires and house fires and accidents. I know the area. And I like that concept of public service. And that's what the county supervisor position is to me. It's a form of public service. I really feel that we need a kind of a new leadership vision at the county level to establish a good working base for employees in the future and for our citizens in the future. Wapello County has opportunities. We need to discover them and work together to implement them, and we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hammersley Wilson?
Yes. Closing, I want to thank everyone that participated in the forum, and the league for their professionalism and management of this forum. I hope that we've offered insight and a vision as to what each of us has to offer our community. It's refreshing to see a wide spectrum of candidates, each who have a desire to serve our community. And I just hope you have a great week. Please get out and vote for the person or persons that you feel can best represent Wapello County moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hewitt?
Well, I've lived here all my life, and I've had a business here for 35 years. and I've worked with the public a lot. And I know what people want and don't want. And like I say, I've been in this area for 4 years now, and I still learn something new every day. It's not something you learn overnight. And Jerry can attest to that too, because I'm sure he learns something new every day too, but he knows most everything already. But I do appreciate everybody coming out, and like I said, the candidates too, so.
Thank you. Mr. Parker?
Well, you know, I'm going to be different than Connie. I'm not going to watch what Des Moines does on the franchise fee. I'll tell you now, pass the word. Jerry Parker is against it, and I'll do everything I can to convince council to not do it. And when Mr. Ziegler says sometimes it's a day before you get your road plowed, that happens right here in town where we've got paved roads. We try and rotate. We go from one end of the county to the other, one end of the zone to the other, so everybody gets done in probably 24 hours. Mr. Ziegler said he will not discourage the use of bonding. I do. You know what? The city is in debt about $50 million. You know how much we're in debt? Next year, we make our last bond payments. We'll be debt free. Isn't that good? That's something we should applaud. And we work there. So I'm not going to encourage the use of bonding. And when they say we need a change, well, let's look at what we did. We lowered taxes next year in the budget, $750,000. How do you want to change that? You want to raise them? Remember when the city had to lay off people because of budget problems? No layoffs in Wapello County.
All right, so I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Thank you to our candidates for coming out before the public and answering questions this evening. I also want our participants to know that we did send out some handouts in the seats about voting, and about how to vote early, about how to find out about absentee ballots, and also to make sure that you are still registered and where your polling place is. So you can take a look at those. And then we also have it printed up on a little sign out front if you didn't get a handout. All right, and thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
We did it.